गुड इवनिंग, नमस्कार दोस्तों। आज हम लोग आए हैं क्लासिक अमेरिकन लिटरेचर डिस्कस करने के लिए। हमारा आज का क्लास स्टार्ट करने से पहले एक बात बता देता हूँ आप सभी लोगों को दैट वी आर ऑलरेडी स्टार्टिंग आवर क्लास फॉर CGPSC AP English. This exam of CGPSC AP in Chhattisgarh is coming very soon. So I invite all of you to come and join our KTS Academy Raipur as soon as possible because we have already started our classes. Okay, तो आज हम लोग देखेंगे हमारे जो सिलेबस है CGPSC इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में। सिलेबस में हम देखते हैं कि एक सेक्शन है अमेरिकन लिटरेचर। उस अमेरिकन लिटरेचर में हमें क्या क्या टॉपिक है? इमर्सन, थोरो, then Melville, and another one is O'Neill, Eugene O'Neill. Okay, तो आज हम लोग एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक के ऊपर डिस्कस करने वाले हैं, दैट इज क्लासिक अमेरिकन लिटरेचर, जो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है हमारे एग्जाम के लिए। क्लासिक अमेरिकन लिटरेचर इज द सेकेंड एज इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ अमेरिकन लिटरेचर। ओके, तो क्लासिक अमेरिकन लिटरेचर के लिए देयर आर 5 राइटर्स हु आर द क्लासिक अमेरिकन राइटर्स। सो देयर आर 5 अमेरिकन राइटर्स, दे कम अंडर दिस इम्पॉर्टेंट ग्रुप। यू सी Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, next Henry David Thoreau, then Nathaniel Hawthorne, and then Melville, and last but not the least Walt Whitman. So these 5 writers are classic Americans. Okay, so most important questions will come from this section, that who are the American classics. So these 5 are the American classics. और इसमें हमारे सिलेबस में क्या क्या है? हमारे सिलेबस में इमर्सन है, थोरो है और हॉथॉर्न है। Emerson's American Scholar is there, Thoreau's Civil Disobedience is there, and Nathaniel Hawthorne's the novel The Scarlet Letter is there. Okay, so out of 5 American classics, we have 3 American classics in our CGPSC English syllabus. तो इसीलिए क्लासिक अमेरिकन लिटरेचर को पढ़ना, जानना, समझना और उसमें जितने सारे इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस बनते हैं वो हमें कवर करना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है हमारे एग्ज़ाम के लिए। ठीक है, तो आज बस ये एक छोटा सा वीडियो है जिसके थ्रू मैं ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि क्लासिक अमेरिकन लिटरेचर के लिए हमें क्या क्या पढ़ना है, व्हाट आर द पॉइंट्स टू रिमेंबर फॉर आवर एग्ज़ाम, हाउ टू स्टडी, हाउ टू प्रिपेयर। जो सिलेबस में है वही हम पढ़ेंगे वो तो ठीक है, बट अलोंग विद द सिलेबस वी हैव टू कवर मेनी अदर पॉइंट्स जो शायद फिजिकली हमें दिख नहीं रहा है, सिलेबस में नहीं है, बट दे आर एब्सेंटली प्रेजेंट इन द सिलेबस। जैसे इमर्सन का अमेरिकन स्कॉलर सिलेबस में है, बट इमर्सन का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ट्रांसेंडेंटलिज्म, ट्रांसेंडेंटल मूवमेंट, इमर्सन जो एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट पोएम लिखे थे ब्रह्मा, एंड हिज इन्फ्लुएंस फ्रॉम इंडियन फिलोसॉफिकल थॉट, हाउ ही वाज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय हिंदुइज्म, भगवद गीता, एंड हाउ दे आर नेचर लवर लाइक अदर रोमांटिक्स। तो ऐसे कई सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं जो हमें जानना ज़रूरी है, विच आर मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर CGPSC इंग्लिश एग्जाम। ओके, तो चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं। सो दीज आर द 5 अमेरिकन क्लासिक्स। ओके, सो वी विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द वेरी इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ अमेरिका। इन 1776 वी सी America got independence. So America is the first democratic country. It's a matter of great pride. They are then called, they were proud to be American at that time. France tried to get the first democracy, but they failed. But America succeeded. America succeeded. You remember 1776, there was a draft also written for the independence, and that draft was named as Declaration of Independence. Important question है ये. It is written by Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence. Important question. And in 1776 we see America achieved independence. This is for the first time in the history of the world that this country, this new country, America, got democracy, got independence. And that's a matter of great pride, great happiness, great celebration. ठीक है. So since it's a matter of greater pride, so that's why the people, the American citizens, started feeling a great sense of enthusiasm, and they are ready to establish their own country, their own identity, their own individualism. Okay, and they are ready to set up their own future. They no longer follow any older civilization of Europe. They stopped following European civilization. इसके पहले का जो एज था the colonial period. The colonial period is out and out a complete influence of European colonization. But from the classic American literature, they started producing Pan-American literature. Pan-American, which stands for national, the soil of American culture, American literature, American life itself, which is not followed by any other older civilization or any other external civilization. So that's a matter of greater pride, and they started dreaming about their bright future. And there comes the concept American dream. Okay, so this American dream of setting up, establishing a new future, a bright future where content will be American, literature will be American, and identity will be pure American. This is what these American writers envisioned. They always look for American sense of identity. अब यहाँ पे एक पॉइंट आता है, when we are dealing with classic American literature, one thing we need to remember. So this period also is under the influence of transcendental movement, जो बहुत important है हमारे एग्जाम के लिए. Transcendentalism क्या है? It is a movement that rejected any kind of material aspect of life, any kind of physical materialistic pleasures and aspects of life. Rather, it focused more on the spiritual sense of being, spiritual sense of individual conscience. These are the prime qualities and grounds on which their vision is established. Okay, individual conscience होना जरूरी है, moral truth, morally correct point of view होना जरूरी है. Okay, and that's what makes the difference between transcendentalist and romantics. Romantics और transcendentalist में एक ही बात का फर्क है. Rest of the things are same, are common, are similar. That they are also nature lover, they also shifted to countryside, living the pleasures and city life. They started living in countryside. You remember the lake poets, Wordsworth, Coleridge and so the lake poets, they started living in the countryside. Similarly, transcendentalists also, especially Emerson and Thoreau, this first category of transcendentalist figures left city and they started living in the countryside. Okay, Emerson was living in the countryside, and Thoreau also was living in a cabin at a Walden Pond. And interesting thing comes when we will read Walden, Thoreau's essay, जो उनका essay है, The Civil Disobedience. So through that essay we will come to know that he will be arrested. Okay, because he will refuse to pay the poll tax. He will refuse to pay the state poll tax, and for that reason, for 6 years he won't pay. And he was living in Massachusetts, he was living in Concord. Okay, so when he went out, police arrested him even after 6 years. And when he was sentenced to jail, he was in jail. Again, he refused to pay the fine charged against him. But later on, his aunt came to jail and paid all the fine, and then he was released from the bar. Okay, so that's the story, and that story is very important to understand civil disobedience, the text. Okay, because Thoreau, beside as a transcendentalist, he is an abolitionist. He is one of the important figures to eradicate slave system. Though he didn't see the success of the Civil War, but he was important figure for that movement. So ऐसे कई सारे points हैं, ठीक है? तो आगे बढ़ते हैं. They decided to establish separate identity. The Americans came to realize their own potential, 20 times better, 20 times wealthier than Europe itself. They came to realize its own, resource-wise it is very wealthier. They came to realize their own wealth, their own identity, and they stopped following any kind of European civilization. No, we will not follow any kind of European civilization. We will produce our own culture. We will produce our own identity. And this is the difference in transcendentalist. क्या difference है कि being a nature lover, being a person who believed in spiritual sense of being, moral truth, individual conscience, all these things are there. But what is the unique feature of the transcendentalist? That is to establish a sense of American identity. That is what makes them transcendentalist and unique from romantics. Okay? So transcendentalism, again I said that the American transcendentalists believed that the reality that people live in, physical life, full of, surrounded with materialistic pleasures, desires, and expectations, aspirations of life are artificial reality. They are not real reality. What is real reality? Spiritual sense of being is the real reality. So, go back to nature, return to nature. Edward Albert's chapter, you remember, return to nature, go back to nature. So, going back to nature brings solace, brings a sense of brings a sense of individual conscience. Nature is the friend, philosopher and guide. Nature will teach you our moral, right lesson of life. So that's the message of the transcendentalists. Okay? So it is about the real reality is inner experience. Out of inner experience you will acknowledge the spiritual reality. Next, Socrates says, know thyself or look within. Know thyself or look within. That Greek saying, you remember Philip Sidney's sequences of the sonnet tradition. There in the Astrophel and Stella, in that collection of sonnets, there is one sonnet I will pick up, Loving in Truth. In love, what is the last line of that poem? Look in thy heart and write. So look within, know thyself. All these philosophical points are indicating the inner call, inner sense of being, spiritual sense of being, moral sense of being, ultimately leading to consciousness, individual moral consciousness and conscience. So these are the prime grounds on which these transcendental writers believed in. Okay? Then you see nature and man have direct correspondence, like go back to nature or return to nature. So this is more important. Let's go back to nature. Okay, then we see stamp of America, discarding older civilization under colonial period. In the colonial period, what we see, that people are coming and different cities and different colonies are being established. Northeastern states across the Atlantic, mainly Virginia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, these are the places in which civilization, colonization started. And that was completely from the European invasion, from the European colonization, and the kind of writings, the kind of culture that it brings through the colonial writings in America in the colonial period is European. But in the second age, in the classic Americans, these are the classics, like people like Emerson, people like Thoreau. They came up with a philosophy they call transcendentalism. It is their movement that we will not follow anymore any kind of other civilization. We will produce our own separate identity because we are independent now. We are the first democratic country of this world, and that made them very much enthusiastic to look for the American dream, the utopian dream, where they will start feeling the richest literature. They will start feeling that they will have the richest country, and it is right now we see US. Okay, because resource wise it was very much wealthier since time immemorial. Okay, then I already discussed Pan-American literature, began with these 5 classic masters. Okay, Pan-American, national, rejecting any kind of older civilization of Europe. First country to have democracy, proud to have American democracy. They are the proud Americans. Okay, and we see in Emerson's essay, The American Scholar, by scholar he refers to all the citizens of America, and he talks about important roles and duties and responsibilities of each and every American citizen. What should be the duty? You should be morally correct. You should give importance to your individual call, not from what comes from the older civilization. Okay, American innocence and spirituality largely borrowed from India. Transcendentalism is a concept which is highly influenced by Indian philosophical scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Manu, all these Indian texts made a influential, indelible mark in the concept of transcendentalism. You see, Emerson wrote a poem called Brahma. Brahma combines, the concept of the creation, sustenance and destruction, the cyclic process of life, and he realized, and all this thing comes from internal experience, from inner, individual conscience. Path-breaking book Nature, 1836 by Emerson, brings out a philosophy. It is a revolt against orthodoxy. It is a revolt against Puritan orthodoxy, which was relevant in the colonial period before classic American age. Okay, then I already discussed sonnet sequence tradition, Greek wisdom of know thyself, quote unquote, Socrates is saying. So that concept, know thyself, look within, human centered, free will, renaissance, all these concepts come together in the umbrella of transcendentalism. Self-reliance by Emerson. Self-reliance, relying on yourself. Okay, you know, Thoreau in the civil disobedience, in the very last paragraph of civil disobedience, Thoreau said, you must believe in yourself, quote unquote. So self-reliance, all these concepts coming from transcendentalists like Emerson, like Thoreau, believe in your individual conscience. Thoreau in his text Civil Disobedience will reject the government of Massachusetts and broadly the whole American government at his time. And he refused to pay the state poll tax because he was against American-Mexican war that was going on. He was against slave system which was going on. And since he refused to pay the poll tax, he was arrested. And his friend also was arrested. His friend Amos Brownson Alcott. Amos Brownson Alcott, another transcendental figure. There is a group, and in the group Alcott is one of them who gave the name of the title of the transcendental journal, that is called the Dial. And in this magazine, I should say, in this transcendental magazine, all these classic writers used to write essays, poems and many works. Clear? Now the American scholar, we see that, Emerson clearly mentioned it. American scholar was a research paper. It was a lecture. He presented this lecture to Phi Beta Kappa Society. And then it has been converted into a seminal essay that we are reading today in our syllabus. Okay. So again, I would say all of you join our KTS Academy as soon as possible, because we are continuing our classes steadily with proper notes, MCQs, mock tests and all kinds of critical discussions. We pay attention to each and every word, each and every expressions. If it is a poem, we always pay importance to all kinds of critical, structural insights, all the critical ideas that are there, we definitely pick up. No important points will go skipped in our academy. So that's why all of you are invited and join soon. Let's continue some more points. Brahma, I say, Emerson wrote Brahma, it's a glorification of Brahma. So how, Emerson was reading Manu, Emerson was reading Bhagavad Gita, because at that time, many British Orientalists before came to India and they learned Sanskrit and they translated those Sanskritic texts into English versions. That's why these people, especially Emerson, was reading Manu, Bhagavad Gita and many other our ancient Indian scriptures, and he found importance in that. He found importance in the introspection, antardarshan, in the individual conscience. Okay. And in English Romantics, they also experiment. They started living in the countryside. So similarly, we also see the transcendentalists also made an experiment living the city life, and they started living in the countryside. Thoreau was living at a cabin in Walden Pond. Okay, and they made an experiment. They called it Brook Farm experiment. Important question. Brook Farm experiment. Okay? So there is a shift to extrasensory perception like meditation, introspection and contemplation. These are the prime qualities which are more important to understand American sense of identity. Okay? So ये तो बस एक glimpse बताया कि we always pay importance to these things. We are working, we are studying on American literature, our classes are going on. So I request all of you to join as soon as possible, because exam may come anytime, notification कभी भी आ सकता है. Okay, so you better come and join very soon. आज के लिए इतना ही. I will come back with another class soon. Thank you so much everyone. Good night.